Let's talk about a 5-foot-tall dynamo who played $10,000 hands of poker and loved a well-tailored suit. Groundbreaking film director and restaurateur, Esther Eng. Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. Esther Eng is the first woman ever to direct a Chinese-language film in the US, and she was one of the most prolific female directors working in Hong Kong in the 1930s. According to documentarian S. Louisa Wei, in her creative and business endeavors, she was a woman pioneer who crossed the boundaries of race, language, culture, and gender. And like so many of our queer ancestors, her story was almost lost to the sands of time. Eng Kem-ha was born September 24, 1914 in San Francisco, the fourth of 10 children. She grew up fluent in both English and Cantonese, and she changed her name to Esther Eng when she was a teenager so that it would be easier for Westerners to pronounce. Esther spent her childhood and adolescence steeped in the Chinese culture that dominated San Francisco at the time. She particularly loved movies and the Chinese opera, and she got a job at the Mandarin Theater box office as a teenager, where she quickly became friends, and more, with the actors and singers. In 1935, Esther's father and some business partners opened a film production and distribution company. Given her love of movies and her connections with the Chinese acting community, they named 21-year-old Esther co-producer on their first film, a melodrama called Heartache, which was the first Cantonese singing talking picture produced in Hollywood. It was Esther's idea to center the story on the female lead, played by well-known opera singer and Esther's girlfriend, Wei Kim-fong. Esther went to Hong Kong in 1936 and directed her first film, National Heroine, which was about a female fighter pilot fighting for China. This was right about the start of the Second War between China and Japan. The film was a massive success and celebrated as an ode to Chinese womanhood. Esther even won a certificate of merit from the Federation of Women's Rights. She stayed in Hong Kong for 3 years and directed 4 more films, all of which centered the stories of female protagonists. Rather than being an obstacle to her success, Esther's open lesbianism and male fashion choices seemed to help her gain legitimacy in China in spite of her age and relative inexperience. Colleagues addressed her affectionately as Big Brother Ha, which is hilarious. And Chinese movie magazines followed her relationships closely, referring to her female partners as bosom friends or good sisters. In a 1938 issue of the Chinese newspaper Xingdao News, a reporter called her living proof of the possibility of same-sex love. Esther returned to the US in 1939, partly because Hong Kong was getting more dangerous with the war, but also partly because she broke up with Wei Kim-fong. She actually spent some time studying film before directing her next feature, an immigrant saga called Golden Gate Girl, in 1941. All told, she directed 5 films in the US between 1941 and 1949, and then she did one more in 1961. Esther moved to New York in 1950 and sort of accidentally took the New York culinary scene by storm. She opened her first restaurant, Bobo, that year so that Chinese-speaking actors would have steady work and an environment in which to learn English. But it was a huge success, and she went on to open 4 more restaurants by 1967, including one named after herself. All of them were apparently managed by her ex-girlfriends, because of course they were. Esther Eng died of cancer on January 25, 1970. It's hard to believe given everything that I just said, but she was only 55. As far as we know, only 2 of her films survive, Golden Gate Girl and 1961's Murder Case in Chinatown, which she co-directed with Wu Pang. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.